They're not even speaking. What kind of message is this supposed to be? The question cut through the control deck of the Cascari Observational Node 7, where monitors captured Earth's orbital relay in eerie stillness. 17 alien analysts leaned toward their laser plasma displays, all focused on the same haunting visual, a lone Terran structure drifting above the debris field of the Fall Crest Armistice vessel, a peace envoy cruiser shattered 2 cycles ago by an unclaimed pulse detonation. No sound, no banners, no envoy statements, only motionless figures, clad in onyx ceremonial suits, raising their hands in unison aboard the Fall Crest tribute station. Each movement was exact, deliberate, ritualized, fingers slicing through space like old language glyphs carved from flesh and memory. Silence reigned, but it wasn't passive, it was loaded, like a breath held mid-funeral. "Translate that," said analyst Vor Darnik, narrowing his gaze. His left mandible twitched in irritation. "The signal isn't verbal," replied Surveillance Officer Trell Vaughn, adjusting the spectral converter array. "It's built from frequency cascades, layered harmonics, not broadcast wavelengths. They're using gesture-triggered pulses. Outside the transparent hull, stars blurred past in spectral orbit, yet inside, the deck remained suspended in near paralysis, held by the weight of what they were watching. The human signalers stood on illuminated discs, each ringed by white glow halos, 900 in total, encircling the debris remains of the Fall Crest. Each step they made triggered quantum lattice ripples around the ring, subtle pulses that shimmered through the vacuum like fractured moonlight across still water. "They're counting," whispered Vaughn. "Each gesture is a numeral. The outer symbols match the human number grid, but it's repeating in sets of 900. One symbol lit after another, then silence, then again, an unbroken loop of memory, executed with no facial expression, no plea, no apology. The entire galaxy was watching. In the diplomatic node on Earth's side, no one stood behind a podium. There were no Terran diplomats, just a massive orbital camera mounted inside the ceremonial relay tower, capturing the entire rotation of the tribute ring from a slow inward spiral. The stars moved, the humans did not. A young ensign aboard the observatory leaned closer. "Are those banners?" High above the platform, massive black latticework unfurled, anchored to nothing visible, not cloth, not metal, suspended constructs shaped like woven spirals, impossibly geometric, too structured for natural drift. Each one bore a faint glowing emblem, a white loop composed of 900 interlocked dots, no beginning, no end. When wind doesn't exist, and yet the symbols move, you begin to understand the message isn't for the eye alone. Vor Darnik's breath shallowed. They're weaponizing tribute. Who does that? But Earth hadn't moved a fleet. No ships flanked the station. There was no broadcast warning, no visible armament, just this strange broadcast of loss, ritualized grief, encoded into quantum space frequencies. "They're making us watch them mourn," muttered Commander Kreth Schall from the rear console, not asking for sympathy, not condemning anyone, just doing this, and that unsettled everyone more than a threat would have. On the Terran relay, the signalers shifted formation without breaking rhythm. A single step back, a hand to the heart, a full-body rotation, then arms raised skyward. Suddenly, all 900 banners tilted simultaneously, nearly imperceptible, yet perfectly choreographed. The orbital camera lens adjusted. The banners cast shadows in opposing directions, creating a sweeping crosshatch across the debris field below, each strand cutting through the vacuum like reverent silk. No one had seen anything like it. It wasn't just coordination, it was memory given form. Down below, twisted fragments of the Fall Crest still hung in low planetary orbit, its hull sheared open, its insignia barely visible along a fractured stabilizer fin. The tribute station circled it slowly, like a planet orbiting a sacred wound. One of the signalers held up an object, unadorned, colorless, a stone. No explanation followed, no text, no sound, no name spoken. He placed it down, walked back, and resumed the pattern. Aboard Node 7, the crew couldn't look away. "Why a stone? It's probably part of the original hull," offered Trell Vaughn, "symbolic of death. Or maybe burden. Maybe nothing," muttered Kreth. "Maybe it's just to unsettle us." The operator beside him winced. "It's working." Galactic translation stations were frantically running semantic extrapolations. Deep learning scripts couldn't break the ritual structure, There were no keywords, no root language triggers, only frequency emissions mapped to specific timing intervals and gestures, all devoid of linguistic intent, yet everyone watching felt it. The frequency wasn't just broadcast, it enveloped. Surrounding systems reported anomalies, sudden stillness among ambient devices, sync clocks pausing for nanoseconds, minor pulses through unconnected neural relays. The Kaskari communications analyst sat back, his eyes twitching faintly. There's something in the silence. He didn't elaborate. Atop the broadcast tower, one final act occurred. The signalers ceased movement, turned inward, and raised their palms. The banners folded once, then retracted upward into invisible threads. The last image from Earth's feed, the 900 white dots glowing above the debris in a ring, one lit, then a second, third. They illuminated, one by one, each held for exactly 7 seconds, then all extinguished together. The feed did not end. It simply continued, blank and quiet, transmitting nothing. End of transmission, Vor asked. Trell shook his head. Still live. They're broadcasting the absence of message now. Silence as a signal, muttered Kreth. He looked around the observatory, feeling a chill no environmental setting could explain. Something old lingered in the air, like the moment before a judgment is given. Not anger, not threat, expectation. Far from the observatory, on a neutral colony station near Denvar's Reach, a human child watched the ceremony unfold beside his father. Neither spoke. When the last light blinked out, the child finally whispered, "Why didn't they say anything?" The father answered without looking away, "Because some grief is too dangerous to explain." Play it again, slow this time. Let's really appreciate the drama. Councilor Vegs Nomari leaned back in his gravity-balanced throne, his silver robes draped carelessly across the ridged armrest. The central conclave arena of Kaskari Prime buzzed with anticipation. Every seat was filled with ministers, diplomats, network personalities, and a swarm of tech creatives armed with neural transmitters, ready to extract viral gold from the most watched stream in galactic history. The memorial feed from Earth, still broadcasting its silent tribute, was projected in the arena's central column, a towering 3D head-up display that fractured the feed into mirrored segments. Above them, golden reels of Kaskari.net commentary spiraled in slow rotation, feeding hashtags and reactions lev. A flick of Nomari's clawed hand adjusted the stream, slowing the Terran gestures to a crawl. One human raised his hand in solemn rhythm, fingers slicing the air. The silence deepened. Then the screen distorted. The original tribute figure warped, his silhouette stretched wide, head inflated comically. A synthesized squawk replaced the silence, followed by a cartoon explosion overlay. Laughter erupted from the chamber floor. "Look at this one," shrieked Minister Harvex, rewinding the sequence to mimic the human turning inward. He stood, exaggerated the motion, and spun in place, arms flailing, tongue lolling. Some sort of death dance? Is this their war cry now? Dozens of spectators roared in response. In seconds, their entertainment tech sliced together a reaction clip, overlaying the human gestures with bright color filters, looping the silent bow into a rhythmic bounce. The screen pulsed with red banners. "Silence is compliance." A new meme burst onto the net. Within minutes, it surged across 17 systems. In the rear observation row, a younger attendant adjusted his display node, watching the manipulated feed trend upward. "We've broken 47 million views, engagements climbing faster than the Vreeland Tribunal leak." "Of course it is," Nomari said, flashing a toothy grin. "The Terrans chose silence. That means we get to speak for them." Another video spliced the entire 900-count tribute into a compressed sequence, each signaler's solemn gesture replaced with rhythmic tail swipes and audio distortions. A jingle, lifted from a discarded human consumer ad, was dropped under the footage. "Silence tastes like surrender." Fall crest fails. The chamber spiraled into unrestrained amusement. Heads dipped, chests shook, laughter filled every crevice of the echo chamber. On a side console, Communications Director Revix updated the transmission matrix. "We're feeding the edited versions back to the Terran channel, under cultural review tags. Makes it look like we're honoring the original content. Algorithm safe." "Good," said Nomari. "Make sure their public network sees it." No response from their diplomats. "None," Revix replied. "Their relays still active, still silent." Nomari snorted. What kind of species builds ritual around debris and doesn't expect mockery? You don't get to mourn in the galactic spotlight without feedback. The lights in the chamber dimmed. A new projection replaced the central feed. This one split the tribute platform into quadrants, then randomized the gestures in out-of-order loops. One quadrant moved solemnly. The others glitched, flickered, inverted. Then came the overlay of spinning Terran heads, their mouths contorted into eternal soundless screams. Another wave of guffaws surged. On the fringe of the arena, a field technician spoke into his shoulder mic. We're getting request pings from 16 major creators, dubbing requests, remix access, full tribute file downloads. Send it all, the media lead confirmed. Add the raw emotion layer, and the ripple data too. Behind the stage, in a private booth raised above the floor, Nomari's personal scribe, a pale and slouched figure named Kor Ven, recorded each burst of laughter, syncing it to neural pattern indexes. He didn't laugh, he never did. They're broadcasting no content, Kor muttered. Nomari glanced up. That's the point, scribe. The moment they stopped trying to be clever, they made themselves a blank screen. And you know what happens to blank screens? They get filled, Kor answered. Exactly. Nomari turned back to the arena. And we'll be the ones doing the painting. On one of the lateral plasma displays, a particularly crude parody unfolded. Human signalers morphed into clumsy beasts, their hands fused into antennae, their heads stretching like liquid under gravity pressure. The gestures became spasmodic, then burst into pixelated fireworks. The #gesture ghouls blinked across the screen. In response, a synchronized loop of laughter was captured from the audience and fed directly into the parody feed, layering actual Kaskari mirth over faux Terran mourning. The echo of their ridicule would become its own file, looped, compressed, and transmitted as ambient mood. By the time the 27th remix began, the mood in the chamber had shifted, not toward fatigue, but toward expectation. They'd taken silence and turned it into theater. What happens if Earth responds? Asked one of the junior ministers. He'd laughed, but his tone cracked just slightly at the edge. Nomari shrugged. They had their chance to speak. They chose symbolism. We chose spectacle, and spectacle always wins. Still no reply. Revix asked from the comms row. Kor, now reviewing the outgoing ping logs, spoke low. They haven't terminated the memorial relay. They haven't updated it either. The symbols stopped. The ring is just orbiting, still transmitting nothing. The minister beside him leaned in. Maybe they're watching. Nomari waved the thought off. Let them. We made their tribute famous. If they want a voice, they can file a rebuttal like any rational species. Not that anyone would listen now. The air in the chamber crackled, not with heat or static, but with the strange weightless energy of unchecked joy. Every screen in the arena played a different loop, some humorous, some grotesque, all variations on the same theme: silence, broken; meaning, distorted; respect, dismantled. Far from the noise, on the edge of the transmission hub, a low-ranking Kaskari intern stared into a private feed, unfiltered, original, still playing from Earth's side. No edits, no overlays, just the white emblem ring gently spinning around the debris. The intern's claws twitched. Say it again, councilor. They, arc, ha. Nomari's lips twitched, mouth half-formed around something that refused to complete. A chuckle slipped through the corner of his jaw, hollow, involuntary, alien in its rhythm. His right eye blinked out of sync. Then again, rapidly, uncontrollably. His claws clenched the speech dais, stabilizing what his spine no longer seemed to command. Behind him, the full council chamber stirred with unease. The brightness of the central heads-up display, still looping the latest meme composite of the Earth Memorial parody, flickered between frames. For a moment, the audio glitched. Then it didn't stop. The laugh track began again. Not from the display, from Nomari. Is he performing again? One junior clerk whispered. No one replied. Nomari's throat clicked. A low giggle emerged, not amused, not forced, just there. It repeated, short bursts, like a vocal system caught in mechanical stutter. His posture remained locked, pupils dilated, breath skipping every third intake. MedTech Vash Ren ran forward. Disable stream visuals now, pull the central feed, redirect signal traffic. His commands barked through his mask's vocal strip, but his fingers trembled over the councilor's cranial node. Nomari laughed again, this time deeper, head jerking left. Blood vessels in his neck strained, bulging like wires too tightly wound. His neural rhythms are looping, Ren muttered. I need a full scan, right now. The council feed shattered into static, replaced by a pulse map overlay. 3 Kaskari security enforcers lifted Nomari off the floor, his joints stiff as stone. His voice continued without him. He. Ren activated his personal diagnostic lens. Data streamed in with strobing detail, pulse irregularities, neurotransmitter overflow, crossfire patterns in cerebral quadrants, previously uncharted. The neural display pulsed red. Across the chamber, 4 more ministers began coughing at once. One collapsed over the edge of his seat, hand to his jaw, eyes wide and unfocused. Laughter erupted, but not from them, from their vocal cords. Their faces remained rigid. The sound continued. File entry, neural aberration, log 3A0 subject. Nomari, Vrex syndrome classification, undefined loop echo, pattern mimic resonance, observation, subject displays uncontrolled laughter, uncorrelated to conscious behavior, subvocal systems active beyond command, temporal lobe disruption apparent, neural echo visible in scans, cross-pattern overlays, match foreign input structure, anomaly, memory reroute pathways ignited by mirrored stimuli, appears recursive, possibly mimetic, recommendation, isolate subject, redact access to all cultural archives, suspend vocal projection stimuli, silence enforcement pending. In the medical tier of Conclave Tower, Nomari lay in a restraint cradle, flanked by light pulse inhibitors. The walls shimmered with data patterns, raw scans projected into lattice layers above him. Technicians filtered in silently, logging everything without eye contact. The laughter persisted, less frequent now, but always on edge, like it waited to be summoned. Ren approached the containment dome. Bring up his prefrontal cortex activity. The heads-up display layered multiple timelines across his neural activity. One spike repeated every 11 seconds, each time, centered over a memory storage lobe. Play the feed again, Ren said. Which feed? The original, Earth's tribute. A junior tech hesitated. Council banned its broadcast. Privately, not in quarantine. He loaded the archived footage on an isolated lens. The ring, the white symbols, the stone, the gesture. Nomari's neural activity pulsed in sync, a fractional delay. Then the waveform repeated. Turn it off. The tech complied. Silence returned. Nomari's laughter ceased. Then one eye blinked, slow, off rhythm. Across Kaskarinet's development hub, engineers stared at command line overlays. The trending feed from the tribute parody loop had corrupted. Playback inconsistencies multiplied. Audio files refused to scrub cleanly. The laughter remained embedded, even after being manually removed. It's in the waveform now, one developer muttered. We can't scrub it, even silence replays it. What do you mean silence replays it? I mean when we delete the sound, it laughs anyway. Medical Command Station Delta relayed new data within hours. 9 more council officials, scattered across different districts, reported similar symptoms: motor disruption, facial tremors, involuntary mirth. All had viewed the memorial remix during the arena event. All had laughed. Explain it again, demanded Director Hal Voren, pacing the diagnostic chamber. Ren didn't blink. They didn't encode a weapon. They encoded consequence. The memorial was a ritual. That ritual had structure, soundless frequency layered into meaning. Mockery triggered it. Triggered what? I don't know. A response. Not a device. Not a pulse. A shape in cognition. Their tribute wasn't symbolic. It was functional, and we tore it open. Voren narrowed his gaze. You're saying the Terrans set a trap using memory. No, I'm saying they set a boundary. We crossed it. Inside Nomari's cell, the central monitor flickered. It shouldn't have. The tribute relay, still technically banned, reappeared for exactly 3 seconds. One symbol lit. A ripple passed across his pupils. Nomari whispered something. No translator could decode it. Shut everything else down. I want full spectrum isolation and a blank core relay. No external links. Dr. Malrek Thurn's voice sliced through the dim silence of Analysis Chamber 0 row. His eyes, strained by 20 hours without sleep, didn't blink as the original Earth Memorial playback loaded on the vault-level heads-up array. Across the lab, 5 data surge analysts waited, motionless, under amber emergency lighting. None spoke. Their hands hovered near emergency cutoff levers, not as protocol but instinct. On screen, the tribute began once more. Terran signalers in seamless formation, their movements slow and weighted. No speech, no audio feed. Just the spiraling formation, white ring lights circling the black void of the broken Fallcrest wreck. Thurn leaned forward. Filter by time-coded variants. Remove all interference. Technician Vossel tapped the core parse engine. Filtered. No verbal data, no metadata injection, no pulse anomalies. Still, something in the frame rhythm. Show me. The feed refracted into frames, each broken into sub-second glyph patterns. Movement translated into waveform curvature, hands, steps, turns. Each gesture mapped into a harmonic burst, invisible to the naked eye, but persistent in high-grain photonic sweep. Thurn watched the patterns with clenched jaw. What emotion markers trigger on this? None, said researcher Dren. Because they're not reacting to what's seen. They're responding to what's timed. Correlate gesture peaks with neural echo onset from the infected. A pause. Then the screen bloomed with red overlays. Points of resonance lit along the gesture curves. 12 seconds, 27 seconds, 44. Each matched with a surge in affected subjects' laughter bursts and cognition breaks. This isn't subliminal, Thurn said flatly. It's structured resonance coding. Embedded sequence triggers, woven into non-verbal choreography. Each gesture is a pin on a lattice, Vossel added. They aren't mourning, they're broadcasting sequence gates. Thurn's skin prickled. So the ritual is the weapon. Dren swallowed. It isn't that simple. Enlighten me. It only triggers when laughed at. Silence thickened. We exposed controlled volunteers to the unaltered ceremony. No effect. But the moment parody overlays were introduced, even neutral ones, looped feedback initiated. Thurn stood still. It's not a trap. No, Dren said. It's a mirror, one that doesn't reflect back unless you smirk at it. Heads turned toward the display, which now floated in ghosted monochrome. The tribute replayed again, slower, this time with temporal layer compression. As the signalers gestured, a new layer appeared. Faint temporal dilation fields, arranged in a spiral pattern across the orbital plane. Dren pointed. Encoded timestamps. They orbited a different rhythm than the ceremony. Why? They're linked to audience response latency. They pulse on delay loops, as if waiting to catch emotional feedback. Heads-up diagnostics flared with inter-system synchronization logs. 0.7-second delays, timed perfectly to galactic relay bouncebacks. A ritual watching the watchers. Thurn frowned. Are we sure this is passive? Define passive, Vossel replied, too dry for comfort. It doesn't move, it doesn't transmit commands, but it remembers. That's all it does. Thurn adjusted his lens overlay, bringing up the background noise maps from when the tribute was first mocked. The same laughter fragment, looped hundreds of times, reappeared in unrelated sectors. Not viral sharing, autonomous recurrence. The laughter embedded itself, echoed back. He turned to Vossel. Pull up the raw memory pulse scans from Nomari's last session. The screen changed. Red and black spiral overlays swept across his cortex. Within the noise, a ghostly shape. 12 nodes aligned around a hollow circle, a perfect match to the orbital ring of the tribute. It's in the neural pathway now, Dren murmured, and it's spatial. You're saying the echo in their minds is shaped like the ceremony. It is the ceremony, compressed, embedded, replaying itself, like a biological loop glyph. Vossel leaned back from the console. Then it's not a transmission at all. Thurn looked at him. Explain. Vossel hesitated. It's a sanctum. You don't decode it, you don't mock it. You either understand it, or you suffer. On the central display, a new overlay appeared. At frame 900, the last gesture, a ripple burst outward, a spectral pulse, barely a flicker in the color channel. Its pattern was identical to the Phase 9 neurofeedback loop found in the infected. You see this, Vossel whispered. This frame, it's not just an ending, it's a tag, a marker. That's when Protocol Voxfall activated. The room went still. Voxfall, Thurn asked. It's buried in the channel log of the original feed, invisible under the memorial stream, unless you strip it back to signal skeleton. A single phrase embedded inside the broadcast container signature. 2 words, Voxfall, invoked. Dren exhaled. We thought it was a name. It's not, Thurn corrected. It's a verdict. Later in the secure vault of Relay Command, a memo was found, not in the central system, but scrawled in charcoal across the back of a locked processing node. What if this was never meant to be heard aloud? No signature, no timestamp, just those words. Hours later the tribute still played, unchanged, unbroken, unreadable, but in every frame, it waited. "They've gone quiet, sir. All of them." The technician's voice barely registered in the cavernous data chamber beneath central relay spine. Director Cor Avon didn't respond at first. His focus was locked on the web of heads-up overlays spiraling above the central console. From Denville Academica to Vremen Deep Orbit, the entire Cascarinet traffic grid now blinked amber. Define quiet. No posts, no updates, no live feeds, no signal requests. Channels are technically open, no one's using them. Across the galaxy, Cascari nodes had always pulsed with traffic, teaching protocols, merchant exchanges, diplomatic streams. Now, a flat line had taken their place. Not a blackout, not sabotage, just stillness. Avon watched as node after node flickered out of motion. Civilian ship beacons drifted off course in unresponsive meander. Training satellites re-entered their safe mode spin. On the outer edges of Sector 4, a fleet transport stalled mid-jump sequence, crew unresponsive, nav latches uncorrected. "Patch into sector councilor feeds," Avon ordered. One of the junior relay staff complied. "Sir, they're still broadcasting, but it's the same frame. No motion. Repeating. Show me." A series of faces filled the screen grid, each frozen in place, one hand raised, palm extended, fingers together, identical postures, eyes open, motionless. The same gesture performed by Terran signalers during the Fall Crest ceremony. Avon stepped back. Scrub timestamp. Was this looped? No. Each subject is live. Real-time delay confirms biological stasis. No pattern injection, no external control. Then how are they? He stopped, because the answer was on screen. They weren't being forced. They were imitating, and they didn't know why. On another screen, the education districts blinked offline, not by override. Teachers stopped mid-lecture and stood in place. Digital assistants awaiting next inputs remained idle, with cues full and memory unprocessed. Recorded feeds showed instructors turning toward the walls, holding gestures with blank expressions. In primary learning wards, children copied them. No one instructed them to. The motion spread like ink in water. No alarm, no calls, only mimicry, only stillness. On Deep Surveyor Vessel Gorik's Edge, stationed far beyond the Hevelin Drift, internal logs recorded the following at 0327 orbital. All bridge personnel ceased verbal communication. Helm control left disengaged. All crew found standing in observation deck, repeating the same motion. No visible command issued. The final relay package included a short security still. 6 officers, eyes vacant, arms lifted. The stars behind them shifted quietly as the vessel drifted uncontrolled. Emergency transmission from one observer drone read, "They are watching nothing, but still raising their hands." Cascarinet's defense oversight AI tried to issue an automated counter-signal, just a simple pulse to reboot navigation systems. The response, data ping echoed back with embedded laughter file, the same one that had been scrubbed, the same one that had no source. The AI shut down autonomously. On the lowest orbital tier of Voss City, municipal sirens failed to activate. They had not been deactivated. No protocol blocked them. The system simply didn't register emergency. Its last internal record before freezing, no threat identified, population stable, vital signals active. Security footage later showed thousands of residents standing on balconies, walkways, towers and transit platforms, all in silence, all aligned toward the sky, mimicking a gesture never taught to them. One administrator reached for the terminal. His hand stopped halfway, then slowly turned outward. In the southern memory core of the Cascari Interplanetary Archive, blackened laser plasma displays flickered against silver walls. The building had gone into lockdown after cognitive disruption protocols flagged a frequency imbalance in the core feed. No one entered. No one left. Within, a single data engineer remained. His name wasn't logged. The surveillance frame captured only this: He stared into an unpowered console for 16 minutes, then smiled, then raised one hand. The light in the room dimmed and didn't return. "Sir, we've lost link to half the outer systems." Avin didn't turn from the screen. "They're not responding. They're not resisting." Avin blinked. "Are they aware?" The technician hesitated. "Some are, some just stop, some start laughing, then freeze." Another tech leaned over. "Director, we're getting reports that beacon relays are stuck. Thousands are looping the same message." "What message?" The display filled with distress pings from across every inhabited quadrant. Each blinked with a single identifier tag. "Ha, just that. One syllable. On repeat. Trapped in mid-laughter. Trapped in mid-sentence. Trapped somewhere just before comprehension shatters." They weren't dying. They weren't broken. They were trapped in tribute. In the final 30 seconds of system-wide coherence, the relay control system on Cascari Prime executed its last independent function, a neural warning cascade designed to identify mimetic payloads before transmission. It triggered red, but not for an attack, for the original tribute feed. It never ceased playing. It never altered. The signal remained unchanged from the day it began. On Earth, no new broadcasts emerged. No ships launched, no announcements followed, no council rose to claim responsibility. The orbital ring of 900 stars still spun silently around the shattered bones of the fall crest. "Get Earth on the line now before this spreads further." The Senate chamber of the Rulvani Accord exploded into overlapping cries. Delegates pounded the floor with signal rods, interrupting translators, overriding decorum. A swirling chaos of heads-up displays danced over their stations, real-time telemetry, failing diplomatic links, crew behavior anomaly charts, red-tagged footage loops of Cascari officials mid-freeze, arm raised, faces still. Envoy Trask Riran of the Halvar Corps stood, his voice cutting through static. "This is not an isolated incident. Sector 32 is dark." Our patrol fleet ceased responding after reviewing the human tribute footage. We traced it. Same format, same pattern resonance, same results. A dozen screens flared behind him. Every image showed silence. Officers motionless. Ships idling mid-lane. Planetary feeds looping moments of ritual hand gestures, sometimes warped by panic resets, sometimes intact, untouched but lethal. From the delegation of the Morin Syndicate, an official rose too quickly. His speech modulator jittered as he barked into his feed. "You think this was an accident? Earth embedded a trigger. A mimetic agent seeded into cultural observance protocols. Then why didn't they activate it earlier?" countered an elder from the Liskan High Orbit Assembly. "Why wait until mocked? It's not a weapon, it's punishment. And you think that's better?" "Enough," roared High Speaker Verdan Noss from the Central Core. His 6 eyes narrowed, face tightening, as his hands gripped the base lectern. "Every moment spent screaming is a moment Earth does nothing, and still wins." Dead silence rippled across the chamber, broken only by the buzz of failing connection pings and failing echo buffer stabilizers. One station flickered blue, then gray. The delegate linked to it blinked twice and walked out without explanation. A projection flared in red. "Sanction Earth." Options blinked below. "Vote," "Delay," "Abstain." The first few signals came swiftly. "Vote," then more followed. Within moments, over 90% had chosen to authorize full sanction measures. The approval confirmation never loaded. Instead, the sanction screen froze, stuck on a single frame, a white circle of 900 dots. It wasn't part of the voting system. It simply appeared, then disappeared. The sanction protocol timed out. The vote failed. A shiver passed through the entire Senate, not from logic, but from the growing recognition that their decisions no longer mattered. Across the Zatherian navigation grid, emergency scramble orders were issued. No crews permitted to observe Terran archival media under any condition. Relay operators initiated a full wipe of any recovered footage containing ceremonial gestures. The archive purges initiated normally, then halted. Reports trickled in from 8 systems. The purge scripts refused to erase the tribute files. They weren't locked. They were self-regenerating. One engineer in the Yareth Preservation Cluster attempted a full core burn. His console shut down and refused to reboot. The final image imprinted on the glass interface, an arm raised, palm open. In the trade tunnels of the Renax mercantile nexus, smugglers tried selling black market remixes of the tribute meme, thinking satire would now bring profit. Two traders started laughing mid-deal. 30 seconds later, their neural tags burst with crossfire signals, and their memory timestamps began reversing in loops. The footage leaked for 12 minutes before it was deleted, not by moderators, by the channel itself. Galactic social networks attempted to downrank anything associated with Earth. #SilenceRevenge was globally muted. The muting failed. Instead, the algorithm promoted it. Soon, screens across 17 systems blared looped compilations, humans in orbit, unmoving, heads lowered. Viewers grew anxious, then frightened. Ships suspended entertainment feeds voluntarily. Some vessels removed all Terran footage from their onboard drives. The laughter still echoed. Emergency lockdowns spread like wildfire. Planetary governments severed diplomatic channels. Convoys ceased cross-sector travel. Entire cultural branches shut down art review boards out of fear a single Terran frame might trigger another cascade. The Geralt Concord banned visual transmissions altogether, resorting to audio-only broadcasts. 2 days later, they banned audio, then communication. They've not spoken since. In the outer colonies of the Thernic domain, a single mining crew made a different choice. They sat together, quietly, watched the tribute, all of it. No mockery, no edits. They neither reacted nor responded. Afterward, they deleted the file. No side effects, no gestures, no looping, just silence. Then they turned off their console and said nothing about it ever again. From the deepest vault of the unified Senate chamber, the last functioning diplomat made one final transmission to Earth. It was a single sentence. "We fear you now more than war." No reply came. Only the orbital camera still lived, capturing that same ring, circling the broken monument above Earth, its 900 white dots fading in and out of sync. "State your name." The figure blinked slowly, under the low light. His eyes twitched, but no answer came. "Name," repeated the interrogator, voice cold, stripped of emotion. A heads-up panel above the table pulsed faintly, scanning cortical echo latency, searching for cues in the unspoken. The monitor showed nothing. No identification tags, no stored signature, no trace of memory. Another voice entered the room, older, quieter, but firmer. "He doesn't know it." Dr. Tirvaran stepped forward, his long coat brushing the chamber floor. His assistant handed him a slim slate, blank except for one line stamped across the surface in red. "Rejected." Varun studied the slate, then the survivor. "Councilor Harvix," he said softly, though the figure gave no indication he heard. "You mocked Earth's ceremony live, transmitted it across systems, led a chorus of distortions, overlaid their mourning with mimicry. You did this willingly, and publicly. No flicker of response, not a tremor, just breath." "We've seen this before," said the technician from the wall console. The patterns repeating across survivors, frontal memory collapse, emotion rerouting, symbolic imprint overriding name recognition. Varun crossed his arms. "And yet the tribute footage doesn't strike unless there's, what did you call it? Non-recognition," the tech replied. "We mapped the activation to a response layer tied to cultural protocol alignment. Those who acknowledged the tribute structure, sacred framing, ancient mourning forms, weren't affected." Varun tilted his head. "You're saying it punishes not for viewing, but for mocking." "More nuanced than that," said the assistant. "It doesn't care if you see it. It reacts when you deny its sanctity." Behind them, the heads-up wall cycled through surveillance footage from past weeks. Frame by frame, it dissected survivor behavior. One showed a mocker, laughter breaking out seconds after a parody edit played. 10 seconds later, his eyes glazed. His lips stopped moving. His last word frozen mid-smile. Another clip. A maintenance crew paused in front of a paused broadcast. They laughed. Minutes later, their neural links burned out, and they began imitating the gestures they had distorted. But in one recording, a man watched the full memorial in silence. He bowed at the end, walked away unharmed. Varun stared at that clip for a long moment. "Reverse the feed," he said. The tech did as instructed. The ring of Terran signalers appeared again, gestures aligning, arms raised skyward in solemn, almost reverent choreography. Freeze on frame 900. The final gesture, all hands to chest, heads lowered, white light encircling them in a radiant spiral. A still image that lingered, that pulsed in a pattern, unknown to any system Earth ever declared publicly. There, Varun whispered. Right there. The trigger isn't aggression, it's desecration. He turned back to Harvick's. You weren't punished for attacking. You were erased for laughing at memory. No flicker, just that same vacant stare. A second slate was brought forward, this one holding a transcription of Harvick's final public broadcast. They played it. The laughter echoed for 3 seconds, then cut. His voice became static. The last half of his words devolved into vowel blurs. His closing sentence became, they just look so and never finished. Varun stepped close. He forgot what was funny. The technician nodded. He forgot what anything was. From the wall, another report loaded, a flashback rendering, reconstructed from fragmented neural residue of Nomari's final cognitive sequence. It showed his family, then blankness, a line of unbroken white lights, and nothing else. Earth didn't set a trap, said the assistant quietly. They built a threshold, one you either crossed with reverence, or not at all. Then this wasn't an attack, Varun concluded. It was doctrine. Across the room, the central display reactivated. The tribute still ran, still untouched, still perfect. Signalers moved in their circles. Light spread across the orbital debris. The camera drifted above, patient and unspeaking. Varun turned to the panel. Transmit this finding to all diplomatic stations. No edits, no commentary, just the raw file. And if they laugh. Varun didn't answer. He simply left the chamber. Behind him, Councilor Harvick's began to hum. Only there was no tone, no tune, just a whisper of something lost. There's someone here from Earth. The sentence slipped from the clerk's mouth before he understood its weight. Every motion in the galactic chamber stilled. Delegates froze mid-gesture. A few turned sharply toward the main entry shaft. Others glanced down at their feeds, searching for confirmation. None came. The chamber's core, shaped like a tiered spiral basin, had not seen a Terran representative in over 30 cycles. Earth had not spoken, not written, not acknowledged any broadcast. The silence had become part of the routine, an absence so complete it became atmospheric. Then the doors opened. Envoy Remembrance stepped forward alone. No escort, no insignia, no banners. He wore ceremonial Terran gray, simple, unarmored, marked only with a thin white ring clasped at the wrist, 9 interlocking segments. The same symbol that circled the orbit of the fall crest. He walked with neither haste nor delay, each step deliberate, as though matched to a rhythm only he could hear. The chamber's overhead scanners failed to ping a single device on his person. Even his pulse readouts came back muted, as if dampened by intent, not tech. He stopped at the center. The galactic chamber's speakers remained silent. There was no signal request. He had brought no file. He simply looked around once upward, then outward. A candle appeared. It was not summoned. It was not projected. It stood, real and unyielding, in the center of the circular floor, lit with a flame so steady it seemed sculpted. A murmur crept through the gallery. Remembrance spoke, only once, mock the sacred, and your mind shall hold the echo. The acoustics of the chamber should have softened his words. No amplifier, no translation relay, yet every delegate heard him clearly, in their own language, in their own cadence. It was not volume, it was weight. He raised one hand, open, calm. The gesture was not a warning, it was a boundary. A small disk materialized above the flame, weightless, glowing red. A map, planetary zones flickered into view, scattered across every quadrant of explored space, each one highlighted with a ring of symbols matching the tribute's formation, 900 white marks in a circle. They rotated. They did not blink. The file required no password, no encryption key. Every delegate received a silent notification on their heads-up system. Protocol Sanctum Registry, memory-designated zones, no explanation, no justification, no threat embedded in the code, just coordinates, lines of remembrance, each zone connected not to warfronts or disputes, but to sites of human loss, burial grounds, diplomatic massacres, cultural devastations never avenged through arms, only documented through ritual. The lights dimmed around the room, no alarms triggered. The envoy remained still, The flame continued to burn. No one spoke. In the side chamber, one of the younger observers glanced to the top of the protocol document. Above the list, a single word was etched in capital glyphs: Viox fall. No one tried to interrupt. No transmission interfered. Remembrance lowered his hand. His eyes met no one, yet the chamber felt directly addressed. Then he turned, walked the path back in perfect reversal. As he reached the threshold, the disk vanished, the candle extinguished, and yet the scent of wax lingered in the air, a presence more than a product. When the door sealed shut behind him, not a single delegate moved for several minutes. The map remained open on every system. No one closed it. The zones were clear, so was the message. Earth had not declared control. Earth had marked memory, and the price of forgetting it had already been demonstrated. No retaliation followed. No sanctions were answered. There was only silence, and that silence was now law. They stopped speaking, but somehow, every word still echoes. The boy whispered this to no one. He sat cross-legged on a stone landing at the edge of the Duron Archive Ridge, his hands folded in his lap, a cast of soft starlight brushing his shoulders. A heads-up console beside him looped the human memorial in its entirety. No audio, no captions. Just the ring of Terran signalers, still orbiting the silent bones of the fall crest, still gesturing, still remembering. On his own he raised one hand, palm open, not mimicking, honoring. Across the galaxies, systems once proud of their noise now practiced restraint. Entire empires rewrote ceremony standards. Protocol sanctum zones, uploaded by Earth and never explained, became recognized sacred sites. No votes held, no debate required. Even the fractious Karavi clusters, known for mocking every creed that came before them, placed ceremonial stillness clauses in every new diplomatic charter. Cultural analysts called it a realignment of memory, but in truth, it was something far older, something primal. Rituals emerged that mirrored the Terran tribute: gesture-based silence, procession without purpose, symbolic stillness not linked to any faith, only to the fear of forgetting what mattered. Mockery vanished, not outlawed, discarded. Even private jests that once targeted human ritual stopped circulating. Those that tried found themselves unmade, not by force, but by the cold self-preservation of remembering what had happened to those who laughed first. On the administrative rings of Lirvac Prime, political forums shut down satire departments. Art commissions returned public funds for tribute parodies. In the Reth Syndicate's broadcast hall, a moment of silence was mandated every quarter for events, unspoken but remembered. No one referenced the fall crest by name. They didn't need to. Earth had not responded again. They never sent another message. No ships were launched. No diplomats dispatched. Not even system-wide acknowledgments of the galactic shift. Their silence deepened, but it no longer carried suspicion. It became a signal of control, a declaration that memory, once ridiculed, now ruled. In deep orbit above the Larosian belt, 3 cadets from separate civilizations stood in their ship's observation bay, watching the Terran broadcast quietly. One asked why the ring never stopped spinning. Another said maybe it had, and the feed was just repeating. The third, younger than the rest, said, if it had stopped, we'd all feel it, and no one argued. On countless planets, libraries added Earth's tribute feed to their permanent collections, uneditable, untagged, not as a warning, not as history, as scripture. In a quiet alcove of the Arvani Consensus Institute, scholars debated whether Voxfall was a weapon, a ritual, or something older. One suggested it was a form of narrative encoding, where grief was so deeply woven into the gesture that those who desecrated it were unraveled by the contradiction of witnessing what they could not comprehend. Another simply said, it was a mirror. We failed to recognize ourselves. In the ruins of Cascari Prime, where buildings now stood empty, and half the remaining populace wandered in soft-footed silence, a single display on a collapsed government tower continued to function. It showed the map Rek Maris had left behind. Red sanctums glowed steadily, not flashing, just present, present enough to be remembered. The old phrase, once a viral joke, silence is compliance, was gone. It had been replaced. Memory is law, and it was not spoken aloud. It was etched, on stone, on fiber, on skin. It appeared above classrooms, and inside naval academies, carved into gravestones, and broadcast between long-range patrols. Earth had not declared dominance. They had made remembrance lethal, and in doing so, rewrote diplomacy without firing a shot. Some races called it beautiful, others, terrifying. But none denied it was effective. There were no monuments built to celebrate humanity's triumph, no days of commemoration, no declarations of victory. There didn't need to be. The tribute still played, the signalers still moved, the 900 lights still blinked in sequence, and beneath the soft spin of orbital debris, the fall crest remained untouched, its broken hull casting shadows over the world that had sent it. No empire would dare clean the site. It had become sacred, because now, every species feared forgetting more than they feared defeat. At the edge of the known star lanes, a deep space relay picked up a replayed signal from the tribute ring. The AI routed it to a ship with no passengers, only a young courier unit aboard for training. He watched it alone, didn't flinch, didn't mock. He reached toward the screen, not to mimic, but to feel. And though no human stood beside him, and Earth had said nothing for cycles, he whispered into the silent air, steady and without irony, they never needed war, they made memory a weapon. Then he sat back, watched the ring turn, and understood.